Tonight, I have only one goal. My goal is to invite each one of you to the fertility awareness movement. You're probably wondering what exactly it is that I'm inviting you to. What do I mean by a fertility awareness movement? Now that I've hopefully piqued your interest, let's take a look at an overview of our time together. We are going to begin with the big picture and then work our way down into more specific details. Hopefully you all see the slide. First, I will establish fertility awareness as the overarching context for our whole discussion. After exploring how others use this term, I'm going to suggest a new way of framing our understanding. When you begin to think of fertility awareness as a mindset, you'll begin to see where the more specific concepts, such as fertility charting and fertility awareness-based methods, all fall into place. Second, we will narrow our focus from the larger umbrella of fertility awareness to the more specific practice of fertility charting. As we will explore, fertility charting is one way to become aware of your fertility. Third, we will narrow our focus even more from the general concept of fertility charting to a particular way you can use your fertility chart. You guessed it, fertility awareness-based methods. Perhaps you also know these as natural family planning methods. Finally, we will end with the Q&A portion I mentioned earlier. At this time, I'd like to share a little disclaimer of sorts. Especially when you ask your questions at the end, please know I am not a medical professional and I am not a certified teacher of any particular natural family planning method. I'm simply a woman who uses natural family planning in my marriage and has devoted my career to finding ways to invite others to learn about fertility awareness. I'm not giving this webinar to teach you how to observe your fertility signs, the rules for the rules for using your chart to avoid or achieve pregnancy. I'm here to suggest a new framework that we can all use to think about fertility awareness and use it to invite others into this growing movement of ours. All right, we have a lot to cover in a very short time, so let's get started. All right, big picture, fertility awareness. As I'm positive every single one of you has noticed, the language our culture uses about natural fertility, it ranges from confusing at best to misleading and inaccurate at worst. Most people have never heard of fertility awareness. And honestly, this problem is made even more tragic by the fact that even those who have heard of fertility awareness use the term in very different ways. This can create a lot of confusion. Okay, I'm switching the slide here. Let's start by outlining the three most common definitions of fertility awareness. First, fertility awareness equals fertility awareness-based methods. Some people define fertility awareness as a specific method of avoiding or achieving pregnancy. In other words, they use the term fertility awareness and the term fertility awareness-based methods to mean the same thing. This lack of precise clarification of terms can lead to misunderstanding. Fertility awareness and fertility awareness-based methods are of course related terms, but they're actually unique concepts. Especially as more people learn about fertility awareness, it will be increasingly important to clarify our terms. The second common definition, secular versus religious. The second common use of fertility awareness is related to that first common use. Some people who define fertility awareness as a family planning method use the term fertility awareness not to refer to all methods of family planning, but as the secular counterpart to what they view as any religious promotion of natural family planning. This group often distinguishes between fertility awareness-based methods that allow the use of barrier methods and those that do not. While it's certainly important that people understand whether a particular family planning method honors their religious beliefs, this definition is problematic. Not only is this definition confusing because of the lack of any distinction between fertility awareness as a general topic and the family planning methods based on fertility awareness, but it's also troublesome because the introduction of barrier methods renders a method one that's no longer based on natural fertility. Imagine trying to learn about natural fertility for the first time. We must be precise with the language that we use. The third definition of fertility awareness is that it's an individual understanding. This is a step in the right direction, that fertility awareness is an individual woman's understanding of her own cycle. This definition is more clear, but it's still a little bit too narrow. As we'll discover, fertility awareness is not just a mindset about your own cycle, but a mindset about who the human person is. Now that we've walked through the three common definitions of fertility awareness, where does that leave us? It's time for us to transcend these underdeveloped definitions and reconceptualize fertility awareness as a way of looking at the human person. The term itself says it all: being aware of our fertility and everything that means. Fertility awareness is a way of looking at the human body. It's a way of looking at our identity. Let's think of fertility awareness as the relationship we have with our bodies when we know how they work, respect how they work, and don't try to manipulate or defeat them. We all know that before having a healthy relationship with others, we must first have a healthy relationship with ourselves. Learning how our bodies work helps us build exactly this kind of foundation. Everyone deserves to know that our bodies speak a language and that we can learn this language. Thanks to modern science, our knowledge about biological fertility is skyrocketing to astonishing heights. Thanks to thoughtful historians, anthropologists, philosophers, and theologians, our understanding of personhood and the dynamic of relationships is slowly but surely welcoming people into the very heart of what it means to be human. When my husband Nick and I learned about fertility awareness when we were engaged and then newly married, we fell so in love with what we were learning that we had no choice but to tell others about it. During that time, I was finishing up law school and interning for the sexual assault of the district attorney. As I contemplated what kind of advocate I wanted to be after graduation, I realized that the most important thing I could advocate for was fertility awareness. My husband and I had received a gift, and it was time for me to share it with others, even though that meant sacrificing the legal career for which I had worked so hard. I don't regret it for a second. Hopefully, you're beginning to see where a fertility awareness movement can come into play. Are you ready to think of fertility awareness as a social movement? As a movement emerging to encourage people to learn about their bodies and how they work? In many ways, this movement has already begun, and each one of you listening is already a part of it. Actually, you're not just a part of it. You are the very foundation upon which this movement is building. It's a privilege to be speaking to such a diverse audience tonight. Some of you listening are certified instructors of a natural family planning method who have taught dozens or even hundreds of couples. Some of you are young women who have never heard of fertility awareness before this webinar. Some of you suffer from fertility struggles such as endometriosis or PCOS. Some of you have experienced the heartache of miscarriage, the devastation of infertility, or the tragically unnecessary side effects of hormonal contraception. Some of you are going crazy trying to breastfeed. Some of you are women whose children are already grown, and honestly, you're a little confused what it would look like for you to be a part of this movement at this point in your lives. I'm so glad each of you is here. You and your unique stories are the heart of this movement. You are the pioneers. You are the founders. You are the visionaries. I do not say this lightly, and I don't say it to flatter you. I say it because it's the truth. The Guiding Star Project is also one of the leaders of this movement, and it will be a powerful resource for you. As Leah always says, your body is not broken. This is exactly what we're telling women when we invite them to the fertility awareness movement. We are telling them that their bodies were not made incorrectly. We are telling them that their natural fertility is not something to suppress or to be afraid of. We are telling them that their bodies are an inseparable part of who they are. Our biological fertility reflects a larger truth about us. We are made to give life. Our culture has an underdeveloped understanding of fertility itself. Every single woman on the planet gives life in so many ways, regardless of whether she has biological children. While poignant examples, the world of fertility is not limited to ovulation, pregnancy, and breastfeeding. When we understand fertility as participating in the gift of life, we can see our own lives with a fresh perspective. Just think of all the ways you encouraged, fed, comforted, and supported others today. I recognize the gifts each of you give. I'm aware of your fertility. Thank you for your love, your fertile love, your love that serves as the foundation of our entire civilization. The feminine genius is real, and a big piece of it is our natural ability to make connections. For example, we women probably intuit the connection between fertility awareness, fertility education, and family planning. The connection between fertility awareness and the feminist movement. The connection between fertility charting and body image. But we need a little help articulating these connections. Promoting fertility awareness is not about imposing any particular belief or ideology on others. It's also not about taking away access to drugs from the women who need them for certain medical reasons. Promoting fertility awareness is about giving people the most information about their bodies and empowering them to make the connections they probably intuited, but perhaps struggled to articulate. Even our seriously divided culture agrees on a few things. Number one, the media and advertisements bombarding us make our already devastating body image struggles worse. Number two, women's health care is a mess. And number three, the rampant objectification and assault of women must end. Looking at these important topics through the lens of fertility awareness brings the vital clarity that will help heal the wounds from which so many women suffer. Imagine the possibilities available to us if we had a better grasp on the language of our bodies. Okay, let's begin to narrow our focus. What is something we can do to have awareness of our fertility? One of the most illuminating ways is to chart your fertility signs. Remember, fertility awareness can be thought of as a relationship. That relationship you have with your body when you know how it works, respect how it works, and don't try to manipulate it or defeat it. How do you foster your relationship with others? You communicate. We all know this. the same principle applies to your relationship with your body. For the relationship with your body to be healthy, you must constantly check in. How is your body doing? Our bodies give us 3 fertility signs that we can track: cervical mucus, basal body temperature, and urinary hormone levels. When we learn how to observe and record these signs, we can use this information in a variety of ways. Our charts are our biological diaries. When we record our observations about our bodies, we are writing an important part of our life story. Charting requires women to pay attention to our bodies several times a day. This constant connection with our bodies not only can help our doctors diagnose health issues and help us plan our families, but it also empowers us to form a healthier relationship with ourselves. When I learned to chart, honestly, I was amazed by how many things my body does without my help. And I was even more amazed that I could tune into what was happening. Y'all, this is not information girls learn in school. It is not information women learn in their doctor's offices. Every night when my husband and I fill out my chart, I'm in awe of my body, and I'm proud of who I am. Learning what our bodies do helps us be thankful for them, even on our worst hair day. These positive feelings, they begin to chip away at the negative ones that burden us. There is a lot more I'd like to say on that, but since our time is limited tonight, let's narrow our focus even more. So one of the ways we can use our fertility charts is to avoid or achieve pregnancy. As I explained before, the tools for planning a family by using your fertility chart are known as fertility awareness-based methods. They are often also referred to as natural family planning methods. Perhaps you've heard the acronym NFP. Well, when I speak about these, I usually use the acronym NFP, so just as a heads up for the rest of this presentation, I'll probably use the acronym NFP just to prevent any kind of confusion. NFP is a part of fertility awareness because it's one of the ways you can apply your awareness of your fertility in a practical manner. You can think of it as a tool that you use once you've adopted the fertility awareness mindset and lifestyle. There are many different methods of NFP. They're all based on those 3 fertility signs that I outlined earlier: cervical mucus, basal body temperature, and urinary hormone levels. The various methods teach you to observe one or a combination of these signs, and then the rules for using this knowledge to avoid or to achieve pregnancy. Fertility awareness-based methods are an empowering and healthy way to family plan without any artificial chemicals, drugs, or products. There aren't any dangerous side effects, there aren't any risks, and usage does not leave an environmental footprint. Thankfully, these methods also do not force us to compromise our desire for effectiveness. So, as I mentioned, there are many different types of fertility awareness-based methods. This diversity is a wonderful asset. Couples can test out different methods and find the one that works best for them. As we know, each woman's body is unique. Different NFP methods may be easier for different women to use. I don't need to tell you, our bodies also change over time. This also can play a role with what method we like to choose. For example, the method that works for you best before you have a baby might no longer be the best method for you postpartum. While I won't be speaking tonight about individual methods, I will give you one piece of advice about selecting a method. No matter what method you choose, please get a teacher. It's really important to not try to figure it out by yourself. This means that you might be limited to whatever method is taught in your area, although some methods do allow instructors to teach long distance via video chatting, such as Skype. All right, I do not need to tell you NFP is one of the most countercultural and misunderstood concepts in our society today. Much of this misunderstanding stems from an inaccurate statistic. I'll explain. I am now going to share a really important slide with you. This slide is going to blow your mind. It's a slide from a presentation created by two exceptional organizations. The first organization is FACS, the Fertility Appreciation Collaborative to Teach the Science. The mission of FACS is to educate healthcare professionals about evidence-based fertility awareness methods so they may empower and engage patients to care for their reproductive health. The organization that helped FACS develop the presentation from which I'm taking this next slide is Natural Womanhood, a health literacy organization. Their mission is to encourage women to understand their individual cycles by charting them, not just for pregnancy prevention, but for health benefits, women's empowerment, and family planning. Please do check out these organizations after this presentation. Their websites are powerful. As Leah mentioned at the beginning, I work at a crisis pregnancy center. I work with a lot of women, y'all, and I tell nearly all of them about these organizations because they really are that life-changing. All right, let's talk about that inaccurate statistic. If you've ever asked your doctor about fertility awareness-based methods, more likely than not, your doctor told you that the failure rate is 24%. 24%! That would mean that there is nearly a 1 in 4 chance of an unplanned pregnancy. What doctor would feel comfortable recommending a family planning method that has that high of a failure rate? If I were a doctor or nurse, I certainly wouldn't. Most people believe 24% is the ineffectiveness rate because that's the rate published by the Center for Disease Control, or the CDC. The CDC is the, quote, nation's health protection agency, saving lives and protecting people from health, safety, and security threats, end quote. The CDC is where the majority of medical professionals, the media, and the family planning websites get their information. But this statistic about fertility awareness-based methods is incorrect. Yes, I know. Saying that makes me sound like a weirdo conspiracy theorist. But bear with me for a second. Let me tell you a little bit about the study where they got that 24%. Number one, the women who participated in that one study used many, many different kinds of family planning methods. It would be like having one statistic for all artificial family planning methods, as if one statistic lumped everything from the pill and the IUD to condoms and the patch and reported one effectiveness rate. All fertility awareness-based methods work differently. Lumping them all into one statistic is irresponsible and unreliable science. Number two, not only did the women who participated in the study use different methods, 85% of them weren't even using modern fertility awareness-based methods. You heard me correctly. Only 15% of women in this study were actually using what we now refer to as modern fertility awareness-based methods. In other words, the study that says it's about fertility awareness-based methods isn't actually about fertility awareness-based methods. Number three, the study was done retroactively. This means that the women were surveyed after they used the methods and became pregnant. The study was based on women's memories of what they had done in the past rather than on their current practices. Responsible science isn't based on what we think might have happened in the past. Even third graders know that. Conclusion: by creating one effectiveness rate for all fertility awareness-based methods, the CDC fails to report the actual effectiveness rate for any method at all. How crazy is that? The real unintended pregnancy rate for many fertility awareness-based methods is as low as 2%. If you're interested in the studies that are based on the highest quality research and prove this, please visit the FACTS website, factsaboutfertility.org. This is just one small example of the incredible research FACTS does to educate our society, especially our medical community. If you agree with what I've just talked about, and you haven't done so already, please follow the link on this next slide to sign the petition demanding that the CDC report accurate information. Every signature counts, and it's something you can do as soon as this webinar ends to help women everywhere. I'm sorry that the link is not actually a link, it's just a website that I wrote on the slide, so you'll have to copy and paste it, but because of the nature of the technology we're using, I was unable to do that. All right, so it's getting time for me to wrap up my presentation part of this webinar, and I'm going to be honest with y'all right now. I've gone back and forth for a while now about whether I should conclude this way that I'm going to, but I've decided I'm just going to go for it. So please forgive me if you decide I made the wrong choice. All right, here goes nothing. Our movement is fertility awareness, not fertility control. While it's impossible to learn too much about our bodies, it's also impossible to learn everything about them. It's empowering to be in tune with your body and to have a better idea about what's happening with it each day. But please remember, as we learn more and more about our bodies, it can be tempting to think we have complete control. We can't. We won't ever have complete control. And thinking we can leads to anxiety, heartache, and a back-breaking amount of pride. Trust me, I've made this mistake. Wasn't pretty, y'all. In a very real sense, our bodies remain awe-inspiring mysteries. Acknowledging the mystery of the human body is not the negation of science, but rather the affirmation of beauty. Science is itself beautiful. This truth highlights the fact that beauty is bigger than science. Science will continue to reveal more and more about the human body. Just imagine what we'll know in 50 years, in 100 years, in 1,000 years, heck, in 5 days. But we must remember that there are some truths about the human body that science cannot explain. And that's not a bad thing. It's been my privilege tonight and a delight to invite you to enter into the mystery. Who are you going to invite?